Right. We are honored today to have Dr. Christian Casey with us. It's a great honor. Quick intro about him, briefly. He is the one who started all this, started the Discord server that we all met through. He also started the Sahida course on LinkedIn, which is this one, based on we follow the same format, even the same way he's teaching. Obviously, we're not at his level, but and in I think in Alan's book, The Six Daleks, he mentioned that Christian Casey speaks Bohairic like a native. So it's amazing, and there's a lot to learn from him. And we each of us has a lot of questions that we want to ask you after if we have time. But yeah, the floor is yours. You lead this. We're here all to learn.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, thanks for having me. I think Jim was being a little bit hyperbolic when he said I speak Bohairic like a native. I don't think that's really true, but I have studied Coptic for a really long time, and I love studying ancient languages, and Coptic is by far my favorite that I've ever studied. So, as you said, this course kind of grew out of a course that I started during the pandemic, which was really just a lot of fun. You know, everybody was trapped inside. I started doing these online courses, and I had already been teaching Coptic, so it was a good opportunity to keep doing something that I love to do. Unfortunately, with postdoc and all kinds of other projects, I don't always have as much time for it as I would like, but I always come back to Coptic. I read Coptic very regularly, and I just never get tired of it. So I've seen a bunch of the classes, and I can tell that the format is quite similar to the way I started doing things many years ago now during COVID times. And I think we're just going to continue that today. I think the way you do things based on seeing the other classes seems to work really well. So I want to just continue that. But if anybody has any special questions for me, or after the lesson, if you guys want to ask me some questions, always happy to answer them. And of course, feel free to just interrupt with questions anytime that we're working on these things. So Mark, let me ask you real quick, just to make sure I understand correctly. The way that this class normally works is you just kind of let people take turns reading sentences and translating them. And the impression that I got is that you often give people like groups of sentences together. Is that the way that you prefer to do it?
It's up to you. I think I remember as like we do 3 at a time or 4 at a time. And I pick alphabetically, so I don't have to. I remember you taking down names on papers. I just go alphabetically because Google Meets allows me to do so. And yeah, homeworks and then the same review, just like your class. You can do it any way you want.
Okay. Well, I don't see any reason to reinvent the wheel. So let's do 3 at a time. Everybody can see the exercise on the screen, I take it. And I think the first person I see on the list is Karas. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You can call me Kiros or Cyrus. It's like if you know the life of Cyrus and the Coptic scriptorium.
Okay. All right. Kiros, go ahead. Take us away.
Okay. So Baishin de Nef de Carbus an, which is, but this tree wasn't giving fruit.
This tree wasn't giving fruit?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think I missed that. All right. Well done. I was going to correct you, but I think you had it correct. Okay. I love your pronunciation, Kudos. That's really excellent.
Yeah.
You have this.
I used the old Bohairic pronunciation.
Yeah, I could very clearly hear it. You the reconstructed Bohairic. It's really lovely. And this tree was not giving fruit. All right, perfect.
Okay. And if it's Jum an Idako in Ipsishi in Diabolos. So it wasn't possible for him to inform the souls of the devil.
To do what with the souls of the devil?
To inform the souls of the devils.
I don't think that's inform. Tako. Anyone else have a definition for tako?
Tako is destroy. I think he meant Tommy.
Destroy.
Right. So yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna-
رفتاكو. Oh, my bad, my bad.
Yeah. So tamo would be inform. Tako is destroy. And can you give me the rest of it, or just run through the English translation again really quickly?
Okay, it wasn't possible for him to destroy the souls of the devils.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. It wasn't possible for him to destroy the soul of the devils. And I know that in the last lesson you guys looked at these T causative type verbs. You looked at compound verbs, and the T causatives are one type of really frequent verb paradigm that you see in Coptic. What's up with the tamo, tako? Why are they all like that? Did you talk about that at all? They all have a really similar vowel structure. Mark,
Is that there from like the causative emi, or something like that? Because like I saw
Right.
that in the dictionary.
Yeah. So okay. So that's a great example. Let's use tomo as our example. It comes from d, like give or cause, plus ime to. It originally meant to swallow, but then it comes to mean to sort of like to learn or to come to understand. And the vowels all kind of move around in the same way. And what's I think really interesting about these types of verbs is that you have this final stress. So you have the omicron on the end of the verb, right? And as you've probably noticed, or maybe haven't, maybe this is new information, but the omicron is generally the stressed vowel in the word, right? So we have this kind of this weird case where most of the time Coptic has the stress on the penultima, so on the next to last syllable. But in these particular verbs, the stress always comes on the last syllable. And you very often have this pattern like alpha omicron or something quite similar. Like you might have alpha Yoda omicron or something like this, depending on the verb type and the way the consonants are structured. But this kind of common pattern. Does anybody have any idea why? Why do you always see this vowel pattern in these types of verbs?
Maybe a consonant fell off the end, like there was a final T or a final O on the end that fell off. That's no longer there. Just a guess.
Ben, you're heading kind of in the right direction. So there was something that fell off, but not necessarily a consonant. And if you think about cases like, let's just use like one of the really basic cases, like son, sneo, like brother, sister, brothers. In Sony, you have this final vowel, but it's a short vowel, and it's missing the feminine T that Egyptian lost probably already by the Middle Kingdom, but there's kind of this latent, unreleased T at the end of feminine words. But you get a short vowel there. You don't actually get, or you get an unstressed vowel. You don't get a stressed vowel. So, given that you're on the right track, that this is not a noun and it's not necessarily a consonant that's been lost, it's more like a morpheme or a selection from a set of morphemes that's been lost.
Does this have to do with are they like the remnants of like the older Sechemef form? Like the accent is on the end, like if you say takoth, like the accent would be at the end. Like if you said takoth, it would be destroy him. And it's like give that so-and-so destroy him. Are they actually Sechemefs, or are they just like related to that?
Well, that's a really interesting question. So there's a debate about exactly how the Sechemefs work in Egyptian. And my advisor when I was in grad school is very famous for kind of rocking the boat of Egyptian grammar in terms of how the Sechemef works. It's a lot of the argument tends to boil down to this sort of like a proxy question of how many Sechemefs are there, like how many different grammatical forms or grammatical realizations of the Sechemef are there. And he says that there's only one because there's they're not distinguished in writing. Most people disagree with that, but anyway, it's kind of a an interesting academic debate. It's kind of a storm in a teacup, but it's a fun debate in terms of Egyptology and Egyptian language. So, if you want to argue that there's only a single Sejm, this is just the Sejm. If you want to argue that there are many Sejms, this is the, depending on who you ask, it's a subjunctive Sejm, which it always follows the verb D. So you cause that someone do something. Tamof is a really great example to use because that one's quite clear, even when you translate it into English. So tamof is inform him, but it actually means cause that he know or give that he know, right? So you can actually plainly see the Sejm in that word. It's D plus emi plus F, right? And then, yeah, all the way this is structured kind of gives us a clue to the way the Sejm would have worked, even though we don't have it anymore. We have a few little remnants that are kind of interesting. I think I was watching the lesson from yesterday, and you guys talked a bit about this word pejah, like he said. That's a great example too, because it's pronounced pejah, like the stress is on the second syllable, and that actually comes from a different form of the Sejm. It comes from the nominalized form in late Egyptian, or the form of the Sejm that has the initial yod on the front, if you're familiar with late Egyptian. It's like pa ijadeh, that which he said, becomes pejah. So yeah, so these Tika, I just wanted to bring that up because I think if anybody is interested in etymology or older stages of Egyptian, this is a really interesting and kind of rare glimpse into the grammatical and phonological structure of earlier stages of the language. So yeah, kind of fun. Okay, that was quite a digression, so I'll let you continue with number 3.
So Beisach Beden Chisbo Indotf. This teacher, which he teaches him. Think so.
This teacher, which he teaches him. And did I understand correctly?
Maybe because I was kind of confused with it because I thought it's relative, relate, something like that.
It is relative, but let's look at what is the subject of. Let me get this right. What is the subject of the verb in the relative clause? You actually have. Sorry, I don't mean to give you all these false starts, but let's look at two things actually. Let's look at the subject of the verb in the relative clause, and let's look at the compound verb itself, because we have different ways. Yeah, there's a sort of transitive and well, I guess they're both transitive. There's a sort of agent and a patient thing going on here too. Okay, so let's look at both. What is the subject of the verb in the relative clause?
Okay, so the subject of the relative verb is Beisach, this teacher, and the relative verb.
Nope, it isn't. It's not the subject of the verb in the relative clause. It's actually the object of the preposition.
Oh yeah, I got you. It's what do you call? Indot he, the other one, him.
Yeah, so him is the object of the preposition, and the I don't know if you can see my mouse. Oh, you can. Okay, good. So the antecedent of this pronoun is paisa, right? This is a resumptive pronoun for the antecedent of the relative clause. Before we go forward, just so I don't forget, Mark, you mentioned in the comments that the book uses the Saitic peten, where Bohairic normally uses pay at, right? But yeah, I've noticed that a little bit in this book. He sort of translated from Saitic into Bohairic and sometimes just omits things, which is quite understandable because they sound very similar and it's easy to miss. Mark, if you see any more of those, please feel free to interrupt because I'm almost certainly going to miss a bunch of them. They're hard to see. Okay, yeah. So, but let's just let's stick with what we have here. I saw and dog. We have this prepositional phrase from his hand, or just from him, which refers back to paisach. And then what's the subject of the verb?
Subject of the verb. Oh, then? I don't know.
Well, okay, so yeah, it's confusing, right? You could have teten, which would be y'all, and you can have ten, which kind of looks like the pronoun for y'all, but you have this T at the front of the subject pronouns. It's actually only the N that gives it away. So just generally, what the pronoun N in Coptic, which person and number is that?
It's us, we.
Yeah, the first person plural, right? Okay, so the teacher whom we and then chisful is not teach.
Oh yeah, that's true. Cheese was like take and listen from. So like it will gonna be learn, in other words.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Things are going in the other direction, and that's why I asked you both of those things together, because when translating things from an ancient language, you kind of everything has to fit together, and you use one thing, you figure it out to help figure out the other thing, and if you accidentally get one of those things wrong, you get this sort of propagation of error effect, where if you interpret the subject of the verb as being identical with the antecedent, then that's going to affect the way you read chispo. You're going to read it as dispo instead of chispo. Sounds quite similar, so it's easy to confuse them. Okay, so let's put it all together.
So we're gonna be this teacher which we learn from him.
Yeah, this teacher which we learn from. That's great. Okay, great job. Mark, you're one of the students, correct? You want to take the next three? All right, go for it.
Αυτή μετάνοια ευκοέμος jair novi pachois. Αυτή, so αυτή μετάνοια, he give μετάνοια give repentance or give frustration, so probably he repented. F joemos, F is circumstantial, joemos saying it, J again like colon open parentheses, I novi, I did, is do, novi is sin, so I sinned, pachois, my Lord. So altogether, he repented, saying, I sinned, or I didn't. I sinned, my Lord.
Yeah, or you might translate it. I have sinned. Just kind of meaning it. I mean, this is an English translation question, but is he saying that he did it at some point in the past, or at some specific point in the past? Coptic is in this dialect. It's not clear because the perfect and the preterite are identical. Oh, sorry, I said preterite. The past, the simple past. Yeah, I had some thoughts. I suspect that the pronunciation of the second word is metanoia, because it's in Greek it's metanoia, and then that, like in spoken Greek, the oi sound becomes just an e sound, and then you see that reflected in Coptic orthography over time. So I would guess that in the Saitic version of this, you would probably have metanoia with the omicron there, and then I'm sorry.
This is likely a typo in the Bohairic writing, and in the liturgical words, it would be metanoia, but everyone.
Oh, awesome.
Everyone would say metania.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm not sure what ancient Copts would have said.
I think the noun is pronounced metania, and the verb is pronounced metanoi, because the verb ends in, I think, omicron epsilon iota. So I don't think like that triple sequence of letter, like O, E, I. I don't think all three of those combine into E. So I think the verb is supposed to be O, E, and then the noun is just metania.
Okay, interesting.
Oh yeah,
well,
speaking about
it could be the
metania. So the thing is that in also there is like a manuscript. It's called like the Semicursus manuscript. It's what do you call the book by George. Forgot his last name, but he's named George. But I found like it was like Arabic, written in Coptic script. So you know this. Do you?
Me.
So, like it writes metania, metanwa. Like metanwa.
Oh,
That's not
interesting.
metanwa.
It's been a while
Yeah.
since I looked at that text, but yeah, it has. If I remember correctly, it has a bunch of things like that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think? I don't have an immediate answer for why that is. Why does it write Matanwa instead of
Because
Matan?
Metanye sometimes doesn't reflect the Arabic phonology, so you got to change it Matanwa like this.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, a lot of more thoughts on that than I even expected. So yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Real quick, the Greek word is pretty cool, actually, because it has it's repentance, but it's literally like changing the mind, like metanoia. So
Right.
it's kind of a neat thing. But I wonder about the oi sound becoming, as in ancient Greek, there's the oi diphthong, but then in modern Greek, you have the iodization that happens where all the ois and most of the i's and other things become e. So I wonder what stage that happened, if that had happened by the time that Coptic words were being created with Greek, or if because we have oi in a lot of other Coptic words. So wonder why, if this is actually a typo, or if there's a later pronunciation of Greek where that oi becomes e. I don't know.
Both. This could very well be. Mark, I think you just said that this was a typo. So this is a typo, but it's the kind of thing that happens very often. And I haven't run the numbers on this, but I kind of have an impression that you see it more often in Bohairic than in Saitic, for example. You see kind of this phonetic spelling of Koine Greek words as they're being really pronounced. And it sort of looks like, because Bohairic texts tend to be later than Saitic texts, it looks like this process is happening in Greek and then it's completed. And then Bohairic tends to reflect the completion of that process more frequently than Saitic does, even though this had already started happening at the time that Saitic texts were also being written. It just, they hadn't quite caught up with the changes in Greek pronunciation yet. It did. That's my impression.
Yeah, that's interesting, because there are a lot of there's a lot of overlap between the different pronunciations. I find it pretty interesting, like how what gets pronounced oi and what gets pronounced e, because of course they're writing it as they pronounced it. So it's kind of cool that it's like, seems like it's somewhere in between, at least with Bohairic, in terms of reflecting Greek pronunciation.
They're writing it. The Coptic writing of Greek words is interesting. Actually, I have a friend who's working on exactly that, using the DDGLC, the Database and Dictionary of Greek Loanwords in Coptic, which is a project here at FU, at Freie Universität Berlin. He's actually looking at the way these things change over time, because it is a really interesting question. A lot of times there's a lot of uncertainty because we have Coptic words being written the traditional way, and we have things like theta in Coptic is pronounced as a T plus an H, even though at the time that these texts were written, that was no longer true in Greek. So it's a reflection of an older Greek orthography that no longer existed at the time, that probably didn't exist at the time that the first Coptic text was written. So it was already a sort of, for lack of a better term, out of date orthography when it was first used. And there's not really a great explanation for why that happened. It's still kind of a ancient language mystery that people are working on.
I'm actually curious on this. English had a letter thorn for the th sound, and I'm curious on why English, I don't know if you know this, why we do the th, if that has any relationship to this in terms of.
Yeah, that's so I should start off by saying I have no idea.
No idea.
I don't know. I could hypothesize that there was some kind of understood analogy with Greek words as they were transcribed into Latin very early on, because the th was basically just a reflection of this aspirated t in Greek, and then that aspirated t became the theta, this dental fricative that was represented by thorn. in earlier English. So yeah,
I kind
probably
of have like another idea for this. Like, is that because they tried and look at like Greek words, like the name Matthew is in Greek Mattheon. So
Hmm,
it would like
yeah.
misspell it and say Mattheon or like T with like H. So Matthew. So like this is how they get like TH words maybe. Just like like it can be true.
Yes, I think I think that's actually well in line with what I was thinking too, that people have seen other examples of th making the th sound, so they just adopt it to English generally. They kind of use an example like the name Matthew, and by analogy just kind of extend it to the whole orthography. But I don't know much about the history of the English language, unfortunately, so I don't have a great
I wanted
answer.
to mention something real quick since you mentioned archaic English letters. I'm learning. I've been learning about not random, but various different ancient different writing systems. And one fun fact I learned is that there are two different letters that have made a sort of th sound in Old English, and they got used up until Middle English, and then they stopped being used at that point. At some point in during Middle English, and then by early modern and modern English, they're not used at all. But they both made a th sound. One of them was there are two different th sounds in English, but they're not. There's not really a phonemic difference, really. Like it doesn't. I think that's the way you say it. Like it basically doesn't really make a. There are two different th sounds, and one of them is voiced and one's unvoiced. And
Right.
there are two different letters that but were kind of used interchangeably. There's F and Thorn, and one was. And at first, when I started researching this, I was thinking that okay, well, one of them would be voiced and the other one would be unvoiced because that makes sense. Why else would you have two letters? But it turns out manuscripts just tend to use them interchangeably because spelling wasn't really standardized too much, and it wasn't really it's phonetically. And I think Icelandic still uses Thorn and F for some things. So but I think they use it in a standardized way because it is phonemic in Icelandic, but it's really not in English. But it's simpler just to have like one digraph of like T and H to have those two sounds because it doesn't really make a big difference for speakers when we're pronouncing, when we just think of it as a TH, whether it's voiced or unvoiced. We don't really focus on that when we're pronouncing it. So I don't know, but they're cool looking letters. It's kind of neat that there's a history of that, but I don't know too much about the details of like why they were developed separately. Maybe they're developed for two different sounds, but why they're used interchangeably seems kind of odd. So
yeah, couldn't tell you. That's an interesting question. If anybody works on earlier English, that would be a cool question to answer. There was a comment real quick about th coming or being corresponding to German D. Yeah, that's generally true for the most part. It's very often the case that German words that begin with D begin with th in English. Okay, let's get back to the Coptic. Oh, sorry, Dave.
Oh, I was just gonna say like thou and do.
Right. Yeah, there's quite a few examples. Okay. Yeah, Mark, I'm gonna let you translate some more Coptic.
Awesome. Tenna GCM in TO and Befranet Wab. 10 we will GC elevate or exalt. M of him. N I'm gonna get circumstantial for we. So we being. TO is give glory, so glorify. M Pef run. M is direct object marker. Pef is his. Run is name. Itwab, which is holy, which is the qualitative for whoop. So together will be we will exalt him. I would guess like in English will be like comma glorifying his holy name.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. No notes. Any questions? If not, do you want to do another one real quick?
Sure. Aina RU. A being at the beginning of a sentence can either take probably second present or circumstantial. You can see later. And then na is will. And then is do. U is what. Looks like it's a question, which likely will have the second tense. So it's more like me will do what.
Yeah, second future, I would say, because you can't, like, if you put the na, then it becomes second future. And yeah, what will I do?
What will I do? Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good work, Mark. David, I think you're up next. You want to take 3 of these?
All right, I'll try and take a crack at it. Sky nai entek tamoy et be nihebewi et rek idri emo emao. For this one, no, for this one, I had write these and make for the garments that you'll bring them here. I remember having some issues with the sky nai and exactly what it was doing there.
Okay, so there's different ways to read the word nai. It's a relatively common word in Coptic. I think you said these in your translation.
Yeah, I think it's on these.
It could be these. That's not an impossible reading here, but it's not the one that I think is most likely, just based on my own personal feelings.
Right.
There's another really common meaning of nai.
Right to me? Would it be right to me in
Yes.
this? Okay,
Yeah.
that
And
makes a
this
little
is,
more sense.
I think this is what makes that more likely. This tamoi instead of, yeah. Okay, and what did you get? Sky nai entek tamoi. Oh, that's right. It does. The higher tends to use nay, not nai. I agree with you, Mark. So Mark has written it's likely another typo from the translation from Saidic. I think that's probably the case. I really want it to be right to me. Okay, and then what comes next, David?
Let's see here. Tamoy is to make, yes, or
No,
no?
you're probably thinking of tamio, which is a verb, a different verb.
I see. I think I misread that. And
So it's. I'll just give you a little hint. It's tamo plus a suffix pronoun.
Tamo. Okay.
And tamo is the causative, or the T causative from imi, like to learn, or to understand.
So, write to me. What? Write to me. You. Write to me.
You're reading intech as like the direct object. So n is direct object marker, and then tech as your something. I think intech is the conjunctive.
Conjunctive. Yeah, I'm saying your, but I'm really meaning like you. I'm just
Oh, okay, I see.
You for me. And you said what was Tamo again? What was Tamo supposed to
Tamo is inform.
inform? You inform me for the Bailey's garments, yes, the plural for
Anyways, things.
things. Okay.
It's irregular plural.
You inform me concerning the things you did to them there?
Yeah. The things which you did then there.
Mm-hmm. So
I can see this whole comment. 1 second.
For the next question, just getting ahead.
Okay.
I see. Okay.
So I'll try and put it all together a little cleaner. Write to me, you inform concerning the things which you did there. Which you did there.
Yeah. Yeah, write to me, and I would just say and for the conjunctive.
Okay.
Write to me and tell me about the things that you did there. Yeah.
That made a lot more sense. The next one, I think. So for this one, wo and tinu tiwo and a loli tihan mesh and karpos. For this one, because I think of wo as just and immediately.
Yeah.
Would it be?
It's misspelled, but it has an extra epsilon in it. But yeah, it's just the word and. I think.
And I had, and immediately the vineyard had gave a lot of fruits. That's kind of what I came up with.
Okay. I actually can't entirely read this. Somebody else is going to have to help me. But I have and straight away, and then is the past tense, right? The vine, the grapevine, not vineyard. That would be.
Sorry.
I think you guys had that last night. Yasnaloli. Yeah, the grapevine gave. Somebody help me find. Is that the indefinite? The plural indefinite word? Some
Yes.
functions?
He wanted to say ha in Sahidic for many. So he translates ha to hanmesh. I don't know how accurate this is, but this is how it's done in the book.
Okay. Cool. So he wanted to make it ha and mesh.
Yes.
Like ha.
He wanted to say just ha and karpos. In Sahidic, just ha and karpos.
Okay. So he wants to say like a bunch of fruit.
Mhm.
Fine. Gave a bunch of fruit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's more or less what you said, isn't it, David?
Yeah. I had a lot. This was just something that I didn't know if that N in the Han was supposed to be in fact hop. I know the P and the N usually gets mixed up.
Yeah.
So I just sort of went with like some multitude of fruits, and I was like, yeah, gave a lot of fruits.
I'm
I had the
guessing
same
it.
thought about hop, but it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I'm
I
guess-
just talked over you.
Oh, no problem. Probably if I had to guess, like for Bohairic, it would probably be D Umesh in Karpos. I'm guessing like Han Mesh because I'm trying to think in Saitic whenever I see like how many times do I actually see Hen Mesh? It's usually like Umesh, like either a bunch or a lot of something, or because usually I don't think of like bunches or hosts or like maybe sometimes, but probably more common is like Umeshe, and probably in Saitic it's probably the same thing, or probably in Bohairic it's similar, like D Umesh and Karpos probably is what I would expect, but that's just my speculation.
So when I was actually looking this up last night when I was doing this, I did see Wimesh was usually more so for a lot. So I was assuming there's some type of typo here. So
Yeah. We have to amend the text a little bit. I think that's, and like it, it's always tricky. If you're reading an ancient text, you want to be very, very careful about amending the text. That's just, you want to trust the ancient scribe, but this is a modern scholar's creation. And also you can kind of base your willingness to amend the text on the overall frequency of certain errors. And we've already seen several in this short bit that we've been reading. So, that raises the sort of prior probability of seeing an error. So, and yeah, it's pretty high here. Yeah, that's the best conclusion there. Okay, David, do you want to do one more of these?
Yep, and then I have one more. En jem and ton henpai cosmos. Was tone a question word? Is tone a question word for where?
Yep.
Okay, so I did guess. And I had, where are we finding rest in this world?
Very, very close. Where are we finding rest in this world? It's actually a good translation, but I want to ask you to tweak it just a little bit to capture this initial verb a little better.
So Jimton.
Jim and Thomas find rest. What is enna? Enna. Jim and Tom.
I want to say the A here is the second, yes, the second.
Yeah.
And then
Um, you mean the initial epsilon makes it second? Yeah.
and then the N is just we.
Yep.
The plural, first plural, and then na is just essentially means will, right?
Yeah, it's come. Have you guys talked about where the na in the features comes from?
No, I should be learning my demotic class hopefully soon, or maybe I have.
Oh yeah, you'll see it there too. It comes from a verb nai that means originally meant to sail, but it basically means go. So it's actually very close to English going to. Okay, and yeah, that's a good parsing of it. So we are going to find rest where in this world, and then second tense because it's a question.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. Thanks, David. I see Randy next. I've changed my screen a little bit, so if I end up accidentally selecting someone twice, please just let me know. I had to move things around.
Okay, yeah, and don't be thrown off. I have my I have a second laptop with a touchscreen just in case I think like the annotate, if I can figure it out this time. If I think it might be helpful, I might try to use it later on in the session. But obviously, it's just like it's not. I'm just going once as far as reading. So so I'm on 10, right?
That's right.
All right. Af firosh etve naisheri teten arech ero gen di diatiki umveri. And so I'll translate it first, and then I'll sort of break down what each thing is. So he cared about these children, and you guard them in or with the new, I think, covenant.
Yep, that's what it says.
And then assuming there's no spelling errors or grammar errors or anything, so that's just affi rosh. So affi is just literally he lifted, he raised, he bore, like, just like carrying something. So he lifted, he bore concern or care, basically. So like he cared etvet about naisheri, these children or these boys, but just say these children. He cared about these children. Teten arech, and that's a conjunctive, and you will, and you
Yeah.
guard them, ero, so,
Yep.
and you guard them, chen, in, or maybe in this sense with, you guard them with, or in the new covenant. That
Yeah.
that is a conjunctive, right?
I think so. That's the way I read it too. I don't know why is it spaced like that though? Does anyone have any other ideas? I can't think of anything. Anyone else watching have another idea?
It should be firosh, not afirosh. So you get imperative, so it works.
Ah, I see.
Okay, I was curious about that because that's why I was asking about the conjunctive, because I was reading as he cared about these children, and for the conjunctive part, I was thinking like, should it be so that you may like guard them in the new covenant, but now it makes more sense if the first clause is an imperative.
Yeah,
So
that does make a lot more sense. Just nix this off at the beginning, and then it's care about these kids and guard them in the new covenant. That's what that means. What about arech ero? Have y'all talked about this? Why does it look like this? This is a thing worth noting whenever it comes up.
in terms of like the spelling or the grammar?
Well, why is the direct object introduced with this preposition? Why do you guard to them?
You can always
I mean, because it's like when you say ohirat or like orhirado, like, so you use like it needs like this verb needs to like be linked with some like, what do you call? Forgot about it. But it needs to, so that's why it says arehero, maybe.
I think
Yeah,
it's like
it's-
to the face of him or to.
Usually, I feel like or ero has the sense of like to or towards something, like with motion. But sometimes, like depending on the verb, like arech or pot, like hide. Like I think it's like the same thing, like with hide. Like if you want to say to hide from somebody or to hide from something, I think you say ero with that too. And it's not like you're hiding to something or somebody. It's like you're hiding from them.
With
Like
res- yeah, with respect to something.
with
Yeah,
respect.
It's the
Yeah.
target of
yeah.
your hiding.
It's like Eujo Emus, when you say like Eujo Emus, even though even though like Emus is not the person that he's talking about, but it needs to be linked with the verb. It's like oh
Yeah, and it basically is just decided by the verb. Most verbs of perception or taste or experience or whatever use this same construction. So like now, ero, see them, and then there are a bunch of other examples. Yeah, it's just kind of a funny thing. It goes with the verb, so it's like a grammatical wrinkle, but yeah, that's why you introduce the direct object. There are a few of those. So if we spot any others in what we're reading, I'll point them out. Yeah, okay. Randy, do you want to take the next one? Number 11?
How many am I reading? One or two more?
I believe you have two more.
All right, so number 11, naftisvo now, or no, naftisvo no e niendoli choice. So
Yeah.
that would be he was teaching them the commandments of our Lord. And so naftisvo, that's naf is the whatever term we're using here, either preterite or imperfect, like he was teaching. So
Yep.
he was teaching, he was giving instruction to them. Then the nianduli is what he's teaching them. So the commandments of our Lord.
Yeah. And okay, so you changed now to no because this is supposed to be Bohairic, and now is the Saitic form, and it should be no with nu, omega, omicron, epsilon. Thanks, Mark, for putting that in the comments because I wouldn't have noticed for sure. But what I do notice here is that nuf is the imperfect in Bohairic. It's not nef, which forces me to return to number one and just lay out why I was confused about that. And I'll let y'all kind of just vote on what you think is right. I read both of these as negative third futures. This tree shall not give fruit, and he shall not destroy the souls of the devil. But there's an on, which shouldn't be there.
Just if you translate from Bohairic, from Saitic, just drop the second N and the first E, and then it should work.
Okay.
So go with N, like just the N T, and then you get just regular present.
Okay, yeah, you can make it a negative first present also. But yeah, whatever the case, this gave me the excuse I needed to go back to that and just try to figure out what's going on there because it looks wrong to me. It actually looks like three different verb forms sort of mixed and mashed together, but yeah.
Which made me go check. How do you? What's the negation for imperfect?
The negation for like this type of imperfect?
Like if
on.
If it was enough, it'll be like just enough.
Yeah, like this maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like guessed it.
It
Let me
probably
check.
wouldn't have an initial. It probably wouldn't have an initial N. It would probably just be nof verb on. I think.
Enough verb.
Yeah, that's
I have to go look at an example to be sure, but
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, these first two are a little weird. That's all I wanted to point out with that. Okay, and then this one is less weird. It's just this one word that's kind of weird. So he was teaching them the commandments of our Lord. Was that? Yeah, was that? No, you have one more, right?
and I think this one might have a mistake at the. I'll just find out when I get to it. So number 12, Ndi wash an ed gem hob hen by et polis. Let me just read through that real quick. So I don't want to.
Mark's put a note in the comments too that to replace where are we? Replace hen paitolis with nem natvaki, which makes much more sense as a Bohairic phrase.
Replace it with, let's see, Jimhob Natvaki. Okay, so, all right, let me see if I could do this correctly. So, Ntiwosh an, so I don't want Jimhob to find anything.
Yeah, it's an idiom though. It's like to have a issue with or something. Literally to find a matter,
I see.
but it's like to fight with someone.
So it's not. I thought maybe it was like the Bohairic equivalent of like chimlao or something, like to find a thing or like to find anything. So this is. So okay, so it's an idiom. Okay, so chimhob nem. Not to find issue with. All right, so I do not want to find issue with those of the city.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me just read it. Let me just read it in the Bohairic again. So with the what it should be according to the chat. So Ndi wash an ed chimhob fin, or sorry, Ndi wash an ed chimhob nem natvaki. So I do not want to find issue with those of the city.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. So I see. Oh, there's the list. Sorry, I'm. This is the first time I've ever used Google Meet, so I'm a little slow with things, and I've run out of new people in the list. Who hasn't read yet? I think Ben, you haven't read. Is that correct?
Yeah, Ben and Peter.
Also Peter.
Peter.
Is here.
Okay, yeah,
So either
that's
way.
that's who I have too. Okay.
Peter said he's listening.
Okay.
Mark, can you say that again?
Peter said he's only listening today.
I see. Okay.
Okay,
Ben,
then I
you're
can go.
next.
Cool. Sounds good. So we're on. Let's see. So we're on 13. MP Ernovi Eroten M or NNF. So let's see. Oh, we're on 16.
No, we're
Oh,
on
that's
13.
that's a note for later. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Sorry. I just saw the chat. Okay. So MP Ernovi Eroten NNF. So that's do not sin, or it's from on and novi, or air and novi. So do not sin against us forever.
Okay, you're on the right track.
Okay.
MB is not the negative imperative. It's close.
Okay.
MB imper.
Okay.
MB.
So it's definitely a negative. I'm trying to remember which one. I was thinking like there is no. That doesn't make sense as a verb. It's not M1. So
Well, what form of the verb starts with
maybe
M?
it's I did not sin against.
Yep.
I did not ever sin against you, or against
Yes.
us.
Again.
Is this you or us? There's Teton for you all, and then I think it's against you, but I'm not sure with the T in there. Is that right?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
against y'all, the second person plural.
Right.
It's confusing because we saw an example like this earlier where we had Teton Chisol, like the ones whom we learned from him.
Right.
So the subject pronouns begin with like a T base, right?
Okay.
So, and this is a subject pronoun. So the 10 here is base plus n, which is the first person plural suffix
Right.
pronoun.
So the
In
T
this
here is
case-
part of the pronoun.
Yeah. In this case,
Okay.
it's 10 also, but yeah, the T is now part of the pronoun 10, second person plural.
Okay.
First person plural.
And something that could help also is like if you're confused about it, you could just think, let's see, if it was the you all plural, like what would we be? Then it's like, okay, eroten, what would it be for we then if it wasn't eroten? Oh,
Yeah,
eron.
that's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, comparing some things is helpful. Just cool. Thank you. So, and that and is just like an adjective, like or here it's actually more of an adverb. It's like ever, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you would say, Skull?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never sinned against Joe.
Okay. And then en tof piet nati emtonan. So let's see, this is he. This is an independent pronoun he. So
It is. Yeah.
okay. So it's like nf and def. So he didn't he will not sleep or Mton sleep. He will not rest. He will not allow us to
Tone is
rest.
like rest or yeah, exactly.
And the T there is make a compound verb, right? Like give rest to us. Sort of.
It's interesting. It's actually okay, kind of yeah, it is a compound verb. Generally speaking, right? There are different ways of forming what we could call compound verbs in Coptic. It's not a T causative though, because that would be if it were a T causative, the second element would need to be a verb. There might be exceptions to that, but that's generally the case because you have the D plus like the subjunctive and a conjugated form subjunctive, a Sedgemoth form. In this case, we have D plus a noun.
Okay, because rest here is a noun, not a verb.
And then this is another type of Coptic compound that you have very frequently, where you have a verb plus a noun in a compound without any kind of article, which is sort of analogous to plenty of phrases in English where we have this too, like give way. That's a verb plus a noun with no article, right? It's a very similar kind of construction.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
And what's special about this sentence? Why is it a little bit? It has a little bit of a nuance to it. We got this in tof, and then the relative why. What's being done here?
Yeah, it's weird that you're using an independent pronoun. Because I mean, those are the first ones I memorized when I was trying to learn Middle Egyptian a while back, and then I realized there are all these other ones, and most of the time they're suffixes. And so here it's kind of weird. Like we haven't seen too many independent pronouns. So honestly, at this point, I'm not very used to seeing them. So that stands out to me why that's being used here.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say that it's weird. It's grammatically perfectly normal, but it is rare and special. It adds a little bit extra. Does anyone know? Ben, sorry, you go.
I'm gonna guess, but I might be off. Is that yet has something to do with it, like the one who. So he is the one who will not allow us to rest. So it's kind of accusing someone a little bit, or has a little bit more. Maybe it's not quite that sense, but it's a little bit more complicated grammatically than just he wants rest.
It's a little special in the sense that the you have this idea. I don't know if y'all talked about this in this course yet, but it's very, very important in all phases of Egyptian. You have this, you have subject and predicate, of course, which is familiar, presumably from, any type of grammar. But then you also have theme and reem, and theme is the thing that you're talking about. Reem is what you're saying about that thing. So in most simple sentences, subject and predicate is identical with theme and reem. Like the cat ate dinner is the cat is the subject, also the theme. It's the thing we're talking about, and then ate dinner is the thing that we're saying about it. It's the reem, and it's also the grammatical predicate. In this case, he is the subject of the sentence. He is the one who won't give us rest. but it's actually the ream of the sentence. It's the thing that we're saying. And in fact, the theme, the thing that we're talking about is giving us rest. There's someone who's not giving us rest. Sorry. There's someone who is giving us rest. I negated it for some reason. There's someone who's giving us rest, and we all know that. So that's the theme. And then the ream, the parts that's interesting, is that it's him. He is the one who will give us rest. So it's just a way of emphasizing something. In English, we normally just do this with stress. You can also do it with what's called a cleft sentence. It is he who will give us rest, as opposed to someone else. And it's normally done just to emphasize some kind of contrast. So you see this a lot with corrections. For example, is it John who's going to give us rest? No, it is Bill. He is the one who's going to give us rest.
It's like clarification in dialogue. Like, so like if you read this sentence, like he is the one who will give us rest, you can imagine, even without knowing the context, you can imagine that there might have been somebody asking, like, who is the one who's going to give us rest? And then somebody would respond with, either Ntofpe or, Ntofpe na tiyum tonan.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. We've talked about the cleft sentence a lot in this course so far in these sessions, but I don't think we've used specifically the word ream. That's my first time hearing that as a distinction. Is that spelled R-I-M-E? That's actually a new English word for me. So
it's
or is it spelled like rhyme, but pronounce it for me.
It looks exactly like theme, spelled R-H-E-M-E. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Conveniently, they look similar.
Oh yeah, huh.
Yeah,
It's always fun to learn a new English word. There's always something out there that someone has to tell you how to pronounce it, and then you go from there. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Okay, how many more of these?
I think I did 2.
You did 2, yeah.
I'll do last one. P halit de empeth jom P halit de empeth jom holan. So I'm guessing about the verb here based on the subject and the root being similar. But so the bird was not able to fly.
That's right. Yes, hole means to fly. And your instinct was wise. They are related, right? Halit and hole, the flyer and flying. Okay. Great job, Ben. I think we're back to the start.
Yeah.
And
Quick question for Ken. Do we say in Sadiq it's like chenchum? So in Bohairic, do we say jemish jum or just
Jim Jom.
in this is he's just saying it's jum right away in the translation. I wonder if that's a proper way or a missing way, because it's actually being repeated multiple times. I'm not sure if it is a proper way of saying this.
it looks normal to me.
So we don't have to say Jim Chum.
I don't think so.
Okay, because also the example have Chen Chum. So I was wondering if they're a bit different. Okay.
Yes, I think it's fine. I mean, I'd have to look at some real text to be 100% sure, but yeah, looks. I didn't stand out to me. Okay. So you guys have all gotten shifted around into a new order, and I'm going to just maintain that order because we have plenty. I think we have plenty of questions left for everybody to get another one. So hopefully nobody gets left out. But it looks like we have enough. Okay, so starting with, well, interestingly, Ben, you get 3 more.
Cool. Look at me. Af I echun erfe, or sorry, afi echun pierpe wo aftalo and wo lucia. So let's see. So going into, or when he was I think it's like a circumstantial guessing. So
yes.
So while going into the temple, not sure about wool here.
No,
Going
this should be deleted. I think Mark, I think you
Okay.
said that in, yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
you mentioned that. That's what that was. That's what this line was. Okay. So going into the temple, he and forgetting this vocab. He did something to sacrifice. Maybe shoot. Okay. He offered, or that's not right. It's not T.
It's
Blank on the vocab.
okay,
I'm
it's
sorry.
like to go up,
Oh, he went up to the
but
sacrifice or altar.
it's the T causative.
It's a T causative. Oh, okay, from Allah and then Ta. Okay. He brought up or
Yeah.
he went up, caused himself to go up.
Not himself.
I'm not sure.
The sacrifice. He raised. He put.
He brought up or raised the sacrifice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if you have that by itself, it's a verb. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, sorry, I didn't cut you off. So he by itself, Allah is a verb of motion, but if you have with a T, it's to raise something. So it comes causative. Okay.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, it's a T causative. It becomes transitive, right? You do it to something, you raise something up.
Got it.
Literally cause that something go up, right? Where this the direct object is actually the subject of this verb.
And it's a sacrifice because that has the direct object marker. I think I said the sacrifice. So just that out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And then sorry.
And A off E, so it is circumstantial, but we don't have FE. If we had FE at home, it would be like going in, but we have A off E.
Oh, right.
So
That's qualitative, or I don't remember which class this should.
So what would off E by itself be if you just saw this as a verb, off E?
He entered or he came.
He came, yeah. So A off E is like having come.
Okay. So it's basically just like sounds like a participle essentially, like having come into the okay.
Yeah.
And that's not circumstantial because it'd be etafi. Is that, or it would be just fe? Trying to remember the
etafi would be the temporal or the second past.
Right.
Bohairic.
Right.
Or the relative past. Yes,
right.
Three things it can be in Bohairic. This is circumstantial, but it's important to keep in mind that Coptic verbs don't necessarily always have a sort of fixed tense. They can have relative tense, especially in the circumstantial. So
you're focusing on the tense of it being having and not being while going. Okay, got it. I thought I got the form wrong, so I was checking what you meant.
No, you got it correct, but it's more about the translation, the meaning. So we have something that happened in the past, and it's while something had happened, right?
Right.
That's another way of saying while he had come into the temple, he raised. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Do I have a couple more? So ten na esmu erof wo ten na ti wo naf. Okay, so smooth. So that's I think 10. Ooh, okay. Now it's future. Esmu. Is it? It's related to T, so it's a compound again. So we.
Sorry.
I'm blanking on the pronoun there. I think it's we, but with a
we. Yeah.
Okay, and it's future tense, so it has the pronoun on the front and the na. Is heard. We heard him. Oh, we will hear him.
Smooth is praise.
Praise. Okay, got it. Thank you. So we will praise him, and we will glorify him.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
And then we have here another example of this where the direct object is introduced by instead of by n. So
Right.
we will praise to him, literally. Yeah.
So we have two different types of direct objects there.
Yes. Give glory to him, for him, and we will praise toward him.
Right.
If you want to be overly literal. Yeah.
Right. Cool. And then tetana estrom etanche niet moti or mot on. So that, see, you all will, or y'all will be able to tanche niet. I think.
So tanche, let's take this one by itself.
Sure.
What does it kind of look like?
At first I thought it was a pronoun, and I got thrown off by that. But I don't think it is.
It's a verb. It's
a verb.
Because we have stom to be able to.
Oh.
To do something.
Okay, so it has T plus.
Yep.
Okay.
T plus some kind of verb. And
some kind of verb.
Probably looks like a verb that you've seen.
Right. No.
In fact, when I say it aloud, it sounds like the English word for this thing.
To live.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's why David was drawing ankh there. Okay, cool. Yeah, we had that in an earlier sentence too. Thank you. So we will, or you all will be able to live.
But it's tanche.
Tanche. To allow us to live.
Okay, so cause to live. Take each part by itself. So y'all are going to be able to cause to live.
Cause to live.
Who?
The one who doesn't die. I think. Maybe not. That doesn't quite work.
Could
molt.
So
yeah.
It's not the okay, so let's do just this part.
Sure.
Mode.
Yeah. So those who, plural, niet. And then mot is, I think it's death. Oh, there's also a similar word that's mother, and also water, but it's not mo. It's the T on the end.
They're quite similar.
Yeah.
This is tricky. So it's a form of the verb that means die.
Okay.
It's not the base form.
So could be an infinitive.
That would also be. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It has a T on the end, which is kind of a giveaway.
Oh, okay.
If it was die.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of.
It's okay. Ben, you're okay. I'm just going to tell you the answer. Okay, good. You got it. There we go.
That was my guess. That's the one where the form. Those forms are probably the trickiest for me right now that I've learned so far with the qualitative, because you have the vowel change, and then you have the T on the end. I think.
You can have either one, and I think even sometimes both. But yeah,
this one
usually
does. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Usually it's what?
Yeah. What was I going to say after usually? I feel like I was going to say usually you don't get vowel change and the T because you kind of just need something to indicate that it's the qualitative. The T comes from the third person feminine ending, which like in late Egyptian, all the statives basically sort of collapsed into only one form of the stative. The statives were sort of properly conjugated verbs originally. Maybe the only actual conjugated verb in Egyptian. Right? Yeah, you get the T preserved, or you get this vowel shift preserved. Like it's kind of like a Ablaut process, but normally not both. I don't think. I'd have to look at the actual examples to know for sure. But yeah, it's T on the end of a verb that normally doesn't have one. This generally means it's a qualitative.
Right.
And on, you would expect the infix negative, I think, if you wanted to say.
Yeah, usually you have like N or M, and then on one's end of it, or net.
The on is a typo. You can drop the on.
Oh,
Did you also
okay,
put
on
that
is
in the
typo.
chat? I'm very sorry. You did, yeah.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it either. Not the last
Oh.
one. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So put it all together.
Okay. So, you all will be able. You all will be able to live. You all, those who die will be able to live.
You all will be able to tanho.
Oh, to cause to live those who die.
Yeah, you'll be able to make the dead live.
Right.
You'll be able to revivify the dead.
Right. Okay.
Revive.
Thank you guys for your patience. That was a bit of a struggle. So thank you.
Okay, that's why we do it. Sometimes they're tricky.
Sure, definitely.
And for what it's worth, for Mowat or Mowat and Sadic, for either dialect, net Mowat, or in this case net Mowat, like just as like you could think of it just as like one word, like the dead. It's very common in the Bible, so you'll see Mowat, or in this case Mowat. You'll see it a lot with the just the same construction, net Mowat, or yeah, it occurs very commonly in that.
Okay.
That's helpful. Thank
Yeah. Pretty good phrase. I have David next. David, do you want to do 19? Yeah. 19.
Yeah, that should be
19
19.
through 21.
Pipe bima et najbo pesheri and chet. For this, this is the place where she will give birth to her son in it.
Yeah. I think I might have just caught. I think I just caught another Saitic word. Mark, maybe you wrote it. I don't know that. I just haven't read all the comments. This should be my, not ma. But yeah, this is the place which she will.
Wait, what's wrong with the word?
I think it should be my. Isn't the word for place in Bohairic my?
No,
No,
just ma.
I think it's just ma. Like, oh, is
Okay.
Yeah, it's ma.
Oh,
It's ma.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then don't worry about it. Okay. Good. All right. Good translation, David. Do you want to do number 20?
Yep. Sashe elron etranchi rosh hani kedra nem niorpanos. And then for this one, it's necessary for us that we give concern under the widows with the orphans. So
Give concern. I would. That's the first thing I want to fix to make it easier.
receive concern, or
Yeah.
You guys can make sure to read the comments. I mentioned every question with a fix for it. So this is where chi is just fi. So, and
Good.
no
Yeah.
question mistakes.
Peanut chi. Can you say chi rosh? I mean, it kind of made sense to me, honestly, but I don't know if it's weird or not.
Yeah, it sounded like it would make sense, but personally, I've never heard Shirosh before.
take concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or anyway, it's worry about, right?
Yeah.
Chi rosh ha, or sorry, be rosh. Be worried about. Okay. And who are we worried about?
The widows and orphans.
Yeah, the widows and the orphans. Okay, so we're worried about the widows and the orphans. And what is this for? What's happening here?
So sachet, I looked up for just to be necessary. I think that's right.
Not quite. I don't want to say necessary. Shed is like, well, I know how to translate it, but I don't know how to translate a shed. That's like, I don't know how to translate that word. It doesn't, because like to make it in English, you have to just change everything around.
think maybe you can go with it is proper, it is fitting.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. It is
we
proper.
Should, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I really want to use, in English, I want to use the word should. We should.
Should. Okay.
So eshe is like the way that Coptic says an idea like should. And must is like, what is must?
Hops or for Bohairic, I don't know.
Oti? Yeah. Yeah. Ben, glad to have you. See you soon.
Have a great day. Take care.
Okay. Yeah. So we should be concerned about the widows and the orphans, and then to parse this, like it is fitting, it is proper to us that we do bear concern under the widow. Literally. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. David, you want to do 21 too?
Yep. This one after Naf and Nienka. I know you mentioned somewhere about dropping the 21. Drop the knee for the Enka. So after Naf and Ka even at Pefhet Washu. For this, I had he acquired it, all the things which his heart desires. But that was with knee for Nkai. Because Nkai should come from Neket, right? For like things or matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, thing. Japo is not acquire though.
Japo, I remember Japo more as begotten, and I think earlier within this within the PDF for Japo, it had acquire for one of the definitions.
Oh, fine. Yeah, I can see it being sort of a extended definition that I'm just not very familiar with. It comes from D plus shopi, so it's like cause to come into being. So I really want it to be like he brought about for himself. I mean, the meaning is fine. It's like he got what he wanted. He got all the things he wanted, but the Japo is like he brought them about. It's not the
Yeah,
same as attain.
I think that's probably better, especially if you said it comes from essentially T plus shopi.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be better.
Okay. Okay. The 22, we have quite a lot of corrections, which I'm glad to see because I was like, what even about? Okay, let me look at the list. I gotta do y'all in order now, so it works out. Oh, Kyros. Okay, you're next.
Which question? Because like I wasn't like not that paying attention, but like which question?
22.
Oh, okay. Indik era Kinde Bolis. So it was gonna be what are you doing in the city? In the city?
Yeah, and there's a typo here. Should be etak. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then hen taivaki in this city.
Oh,
So what would that be if it was etak? Etak eru.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next question.
Wait, I still have a question for you. What is etak? Yeah.
Indik is wait. Indik er is like from Erie. So it will gonna be like it's like another form for Erie, like which is to do like to make like this. And Indik.
I was trying to type the Coptic. It should be etak. Etak.
Yeah, and yeah. Idok.
Yeah,
Oh.
Edok. Very good. I love your pronunciation so much. It's so much
Ed-
better than mine. I'm jealous.
It is that which, and ok is like the past tense for like you.
It
So
is, it can be, but in this case, I don't think it's the relative. I think it's the other one. One of the other two. There are two that this could also be. There are three in total. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I see you making your fingers with three. So it could be the relative.
So I wasn't
Or it
trying to
could
correct
be-
you, just because I mentioned to them every week there are three, and then we go through a list which one would work and would not work.
So there are three it could be. Two additional ones that we haven't mentioned yet. We've mentioned the relative. What are the other two?
kind of like confused because like I don't know.
So it could be the no, wait, does anyone want to say the other two?
Can we test David? Because I mentioned this every week.
I get the names confused, but the two other could be, I think Mark refers to as emphatic for did, which I think is interesting for another reason, and then when. It could be when.
So yeah, it could be the when, the temporal or the temporalis, depending on which or whatever. It's called different things, or it could be the second past
Mhm.
or the emphatic form, which is the one that we have here. It's definitely the second tense. Ooh. So it's a dead giveaway when it's a question that you're almost certainly going to have the second tense. What is it that you did?
Okay. Like what? Go to the other question. Or what?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so Aina Diasbo in Northern EU. What I will teach you all.
Exactly. And again, why do we have a at the beginning?
Because
well.
the second what do you call it? Second future.
Second future. Yeah, because we have this question. What am I going to teach you all about? Okay. 24, there's a note, skip it. It's destroyed in different ways, which, yeah, I mean, right off the bat here, I don't know what's going
Okay, so
on. So let's do 25.
okay. MB Bison Jemehli and Home Nimni Romi in the Perichoros. So his brother didn't find any job and the man of the neighboring region. Well,
Okay. Yeah, that's a good
I just
translation.
like
So,
change the and to with, like, because like
yeah,
kind of
it is with. It is with. But what did you for brother? What did you say here? Pison.
yeah Bison.
Pison. How did you translate that?
Yeah, so the brother didn't
Yeah.
find any job.
Yeah, didn't find anything. I think it's again this kind of idiomatic meaning, like he didn't have any what's the word? Discourse, dealings, something like this. Yeah, he didn't have any dealings with the men of the. And what did you say for this, Kuros?
LA.
Yeah.
Perichoros is the neighboring region. I found it in the
Yeah,
dictionary.
yeah, like the area, the countryside, the surrounding area. Okay, very good. Look at my list again. Doing pretty good. Mark, you're up next. I think we got, what is it, 26 through 28, probably?
We finish in Pisons 26. A of joke evil and pif hope of code for piftimi. A of joke A, this is a converter. Of, probably circumstantial, I don't know, B, but converter. Of he did joke evil, finished, completed, or perfected. M pif hope, M is direct object marker. Pef is his, hope is work or matters or affairs.
Mhm.
He did, cot is from code, to turn, and then kotif will be return, like turn himself.
Mhm.
Which I think the favorite one in Bohairic will actually be tasto, and then a
Yeah.
to Peftimi, his village. So and then so from the beginning, a af together, meaning having finished, or basically having finished his work, he returned to his town.
Very good. Perfect.
Next one, Anshemshi naf in meiti shomti in rombi. We did. Shemshi is serve, and I remember from your lesson before you mentioned it means to follow, and in hieroglyphs it's like two legs.
Yeah.
One. So basically we serve him. Naf is him as what's the indirect object marker.
Yep.
N is how we start mentioning time. Miti is 10, Shomti 3, and this makes it Miti Shomti makes it the extra E at the end makes it feminine. So we know it's going to be a feminine thing. And N, introducing the adjective, and Rompi is 3 years. So we served him for 3 years.
Yep. We served him for 3 years. Very good.
All right, 28. Wow, I left note for myself that I wasn't actually sure if there's something to fix. Enteten erpai an eu. So the thing that I just don't remember is how you negate the second. So it shouldn't be enteten, it would be eteten. I just wasn't sure how you negate the second. But remember the second doesn't have anything special,
The
just
second-
add N at the end at the beginning,
The
maybe.
second you would just like put like a what do you call it, jinkim in the A, and yeah, A didn't, and that's it. It's like A didn't.
Yeah.
You don't like join them together like it didn't like this. No, you say A didn't.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess it looks fine by changing the N to an A. So you did so it didn't, so it's y'all did this to what?
Yeah. I feel like you almost want a little more here, but I think it's just why. Why don't y'all do this?
Why? Oh, EU is why. Yes, sorry. Yes, yes. So why did y'all not do this?
Yeah. Why don't y'all do that? It's present tense.
Why not?
But
Yes.
yeah. It's weird. It's just a weird sentence. I wanted to make it past too, because it just doesn't like why it's not something you say very often. So why don't y'all do this? And then the is
You mentioned why, right?
yeah, it's why. So like English, why actually has multiple different meanings where you have different things in Coptic. Like why can mean for what purpose or for what reason, or various different things. But Coptic is a little more precise. So you can have etau, like for it's one kind of why. It's a different kind of why.
So
It makes sense in Coptic.
why didn't y'all do this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What in the world is this? 29. Oh, who's gonna take it? Oh, you have a correction. Okay, good. I did. Randy. Yeah.
Sorry, forgot about the mic. Right, so correction for 29. Etaf dunos amos as hujai dinu. So I think the translation would be, let's see, when he rescued her, when he raised her up, she became well immediately.
Yep, that's it.
All right, so part by part. So etaf dunas, that would be when, so temporal. So when he raised her or lifted her up. Dunas is like is that what it is? Just like raised or lifted, or is it
Yeah, I think it's from get up, and I think it has a suffix pronoun that's now sort of fossilized on the word. I think
Okay.
that's how it is. It does look and form like a T causative, but I don't think it is.
Yeah. Because I know you can say like you can in fact, like at least in Sahidic you could put suffixes at the end. Like you could say dunasif, like lifted him up, for example. So I guess, but in this case there's no actual suffix on it. It's just fossilized, like you said. So it's just literally when he lifted her.
Yep.
Aswajai is just literally she got better, she became well. Dinu is immediately or straight away.
Yeah, literally in the hour, which is kind of fun because this is before the invention of minutes and second minutes. The hour was the smallest unit of time. So you say in the hour to mean immediately. Whereas for us, of course, because we have smaller units of time, it's a little strange. Yeah, right away, in the hour. Okay, good. Let's take it. We're kind of running low on time, so let's get this finished.
Okay, so 30. Emperor Povish inni endoli empinomos. So do not forget the commandments of the law.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Negative imperative, and then this and then the you have this kind of interesting case where the negative imperative, the er in the negative imperative still means do. Maintains that you wouldn't say imper Polish. Yeah. Don't forget the commandments of the law. You want to do one more?
Sure. So 31. As tomoth epmoshi nem pepson. Okay, a correction. So she caught up with him
Okay.
walking with his brother.
Yeah.
Or I guess maybe like either caught up with or she caught him walking with his maybe caught up with.
Yeah, it's like it's all. You could also say stop. It's a little bit of both. It's like she. I'd probably just say stop. But like caught up with is a good way to put it. It's like somebody's walking and you walk up to them, and by beginning to talk to them, you essentially stop their forward progress. So yeah, caught up with, or just stopped. She stopped him while he was walking with his. Okay. And we've gone back to the start. How many more do we have left? Let's see. I'm just going to count. Okay, we have 8 left. That means each person gets 2. David.
All right, this is for 32, yes?
Yes, 32.
32. Tewash tamoch je lecture watch. For this I wish to tell you that his son is cured.
His son?
Your son.
Your son, yeah. Excuse me one second. I'm going to turn on a light in here. I just saw my own screen and noticed that it's quite dark. The sun has started going down while we're having class. Okay, yeah. I want to tell you that your son is well or better. Presumably he was sick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and one more, David.
Tinaer Pefmeli and Tashtem Opsh. And for this, I will remember him and will not forget him.
Yeah. What's this stem? I don't think we've seen this yet.
Sorry, repeat that.
What is the stem?
I know. All I really know is that it makes the negative. I don't exactly know where stem comes from.
It comes from a verb form, tem, that means to not do something, and the I think comes from ref, like to know. But it's a negative infix that happens in certain verbal constructions. So especially the conjunctive is a good example. I can't remember what marks all of them, or like what determines that category. It's normally these like nominal verbs.
Subordinate?
Verbs are kind of nominal. It's not that. It's like not necessarily subordinate verbs. It's these verbs that are I want to say nominal, but yeah, nominal forms of the verb. I don't think that's the whole picture. I would need to look it up in like a grammar to remember what it is.
I know, like you can at least like stick them before an infinitive, like in principle. So like if you just want to say like the concept of like not listening, like just isolated, like you could just say, at least in Sadiq it could be like timsotim, or I guess in Bohairic could be shtemsotim. Like that by itself would just mean like not listening, just as a concept. So it's like sort of nominal, like you said.
Yeah, so the nominal forms of the verb. But then that doesn't. So I started to say something like this, but then all verbs are infinitives in Coptic, also except unless it's qualitative. So yeah, I'm not totally sure how to characterize that. But anyway, yeah, it's this negation, this negative infix. Okay, where are we? 34. Wait, I need a new person. David, I think you just had both of yours. Kuros, do you want to do 34 and 35?
34 for 35. Okay. إقناع choice in a mukmek imponiron. So it will gonna be the Lord forgive these good thinking. Well, like I literally guessed it out.
Can you translate it again? Or maybe we look at the different parts?
Okay, إقناع choice. I said like the Lord forgive. Like correct?
No. Okay. I wasn't sure how to relate what you said to what I'm looking at in Coptic, but now I've got it. So you're thinking of like koevol, like to forgive, to let go. This cup is just the second person singular masculine. You.
Oh.
Ekna choice, and choice is choice is a noun, but it's a verb.
It can be like high or like exalt, maybe.
It is related. So tisi means to raise up, and choice is this like participial, passive participle form of that verb. So the exalted one, but it just means Lord. But choice. Think about other verbs where you've had at the beginning. It's like to act as something, or to rule. You could say to rule.
Oh yeah, that can be.
Lord over work as well.
I'm sorry?
The Lord over.
Yeah, Lord over something.
Yeah.
Oh, so it will gonna be you shall like rule Lord over these good thinking, maybe. I forgot Paniron.
Paniron is bad. It's the exact opposite. It's like evil.
Evil?
Mm-hmm.
These evil thinking.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got it. It's like, control these evil thinking. That kind of makes sense.
You will control these evil thoughts. Yeah. Mokmek is more like ponder. It's like it's a thinking. I mean, it's a reduplicated form, right? It's reduplication. So that normally means something that you kind of do repeatedly. But yeah, it's like you will control these evil musings or thinkings that you're having.
Ponderings, yeah. You will master these evil thoughts, ponderings, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So
okay.
For the 35 way. Anif matitis dalof joy. So we're gonna be his disciples mounted up with him in the ship.
I would say put him. Not mount. They didn't mount up with him. They put him into the ship.
Mount. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Mount is generally. Wait, what's? It's something that you. It is transitive because you can mount something, but it's something that you yourself do. Whereas this verb is like put somebody on.
Yeah,
Or like
it's
boarding
like
them into the
rakibu in like Egyptian Arabic.
What is
Rakibu.
it?
It's in Egyptian Arabic like rakibu.
Yeah, it's like factative. You do it to another person. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like when you change the form of the verb. Okay, good. Wait, who's next on the list? Who we got? Oh, Mark and then Randy. Okay.
36. And Taro should be Etau. So
Yeah.
Etau Soti Menai أو إرش Peri. So Etau is one. That's the third usage of the Eta form.
Mhm.
So when they, because Etau, Sotim is here or listen to. Sotim, and then A is usually comes after perception verbs. Nai is these. Au is they did. Is do. Shperi is like a marvelous thing. So Shperi is
Yeah.
they marvel. So altogether is when they heard these, they marveled or they wondered.
Yeah, it's funny. It can kind of mean both. Yeah. It can mean marvel, like you see something amazing and you're like, wow. Or it can be like, huh? It can be both things. Good. Okay. Good job, Mark. And one more.
Next one. Etari peho pesmisi jokevol aspo inusheri empeshai. Etare, just like the eta we saw before, means one. And Bohairic, P eho, the day, M is of, pes misi, her, means can be giving birth or labor.
Yeah.
Joke if completed or perfected or came to be. As is she did in the past. Chpo is begot or give birth to. In object marker, U, Sherry is a feminine kid, so a daughter. Uh, it works as just like a child too, but I wasn't sure actually what's the grammar name for what M would be. And Pes High is her husband. So when her days of her labor came to be or are completed,
Completed.
she gave birth or she begot or she gave birth to a daughter so she bore a daughter to her husband.
I'll say 4. Yeah, but yeah, 2. Oh wait, does that make sense? She bore a daughter to her husband. Yeah. Oh, 2 makes sense too. Either one. Yeah.
I just wasn't
She
sure
bore.
what would be two, like what's the full form of two? It's not inte because that would be of her husband. Is it the indirect object marker? But
Yeah.
that's what I felt, but I wasn't too sure.
I think it would just
I think
be
that's what it
data,
is.
right? Like naf or net or whatever it is.
Okay. That makes sense. Subject, the indirect object marker. Okay. Yeah. So in her days of labor completed, she gave birth to a daughter, and then to her husband is also this indirect object of the verb. And thanks, Randy, for the note. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's first time I found out about it as well.
Okay. That's it for me.
But, so I'm just doing the last two. Okay. So 38. Ntos in unuti anpe nte ne et mot Allah ne et onch. So he is not a god of the dead, but of the living.
Yeah.
I was thinking about because unuti, I thought maybe about translating that as divine, but I think maybe a god would work here better. So like, so ntof, so independent pronoun. So he in unuti anpe, he is not a god. Then nte ne etmot, so of those who are dead, Allah ne et onch, but those who are living or alive.
Yeah, those who are alive, because it is the qualitative also. But yeah, they match. Very good.
All right, and then
the perfect way to describe what just happened here today. This last sentence.
39. So Unishti eneshperi detai. This is a great happening, a great marvel.
Yeah, great marvel. This is a great marvel, a great miracle. We all learned some Coptic. So I think we're pretty thoroughly out of time. But oh my gosh, oh yeah, it's all just like compound nouns. There's a few different classes of these. They're pretty straightforward. I mean, I looked at the chapter yesterday, and it's kind of just vocabulary, but we can look at it real quick. Oh wait, is there grammar? Is this grammar? Maybe I didn't notice. How long is this? Oh my gosh. Oh gosh, so much. Okay, so we're probably not going to get very far here, but the basic gist of this chapter are all these like noun compounds, which are normally like noun pairs. Except this one, the first one, without something. So atsoan, without knowing. All of these come from the older Egyptian uti. In Middle Egyptian, there's neti and uti. So you have the relative pronoun, you have the negative relative pronoun. So that which is neti, that which not is uti, and that survives in Coptic in this at prefix that basically just means without. It's the equivalent of English less, putting less on the end of the word. So atsoan, knowledgeless, atmu, deathless, hate, heartless, but then heart in Egyptian, of course, has something to do with thinking also, of senseless, foolish. Yeah, so mindless is how I would translate. So then is like hearing, disobedience, like not. Shotam can also mean obey. Hear in the sense of listen to, do what you're told. Yeah, Tako is can't be destroyed. Destructionless. Achom, powerless. Okay. And then, he points this out. Like in a lot of cases, you have especially with a verb, you have this empty presumptive pronoun, and then that the pronoun is going to agree with whatever this is describing. So, Piromias Nawarov, the invisible man. Yeah, the man not seen to him, sightless to him.
Actually, like the this like reminds me of like second no, not second first host Lopsh. Like this is first host Lopsh is like a chant like in the midnight psalmody.
Oh, I don't know this, but I don't quite understand the words you're saying, to be honest. Can you say that again more slowly?
First host Lopsh.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is this a form that occurs in that hymn?
Okay, so host, like praising or like Lopsh is like interpretation.
Okay.
So the interpretation of the first praise.
How does what we're seeing relate to that?
Because like in the chant says like Ukahin Atun, which means like invisible earth or ground.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it just like remind me of this.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Atwant is a kind of a weird one because want is like it's almost like non-existent, but like invisible It doesn't really translate into English, actually. There's no
Atwana,
perfect English translation of it. Yeah.
Atwana, like it's not apparent, it's not obvious, it's not manifest, something like that.
Not manifest. Yeah. Not apparent. Huh, interesting. I guess, it could be like sort of vague, maybe. It's kind of like the
Yeah.
word vague.
It's not clear, it's not immediately obvious.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so you can become unknown. Oh, you can become. Oh yeah, here it is. You can become invisible, and you can become unapparent. Yeah, and then most compound nouns, like it says, are made up of noun plus noun. Really, like this is originally word, man who does, I think, or doer. He does. Rem is man. Sorry, ref is doer. Rem is man, and gene is like form of. From this older word G that means like shape or form. So sinner, doer of sin, he does sin, I think is what it comes from etymologically. He does following, he does establishing, founding, he does dead, he does sickness or being sick, he does destruction. So yeah. And then this is how you form what's called the nomen agentis, the name of the agent, the name of the doer. So yeah, sinner, follower, creator, deader, doesn't make sense. Sicker also doesn't work in English, but yeah, you get the idea, destroy. And then some examples. Demonyms are formed of like prem and blah, blah, blah. Prem and kimi is the one that we all know really well, but there's a bunch of others. Met is sort of the equivalent of English ness. I'm trying to go quickly because we're now past time, and I think you guys wanted to do some other things. Jin is a way of making a sort of like a verbal concept. You add it to verbs to express the idea of a verb as a noun. Again, like pretty much almost all Coptic verbs are in fact grammatically nouns, but this is like an abstraction. So teaching Moshi is our example here. Walking, but like as a concept.
I think it's common also like with senses, like seeing, smelling, hearing. You just put the jin in front of those. From what I've seen, it tends to be obvious, like, oh, it's talking about like the concept of like sight or hearing or touching or feeling or something.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's like, that's a good way to put it. It's talking about the concept. It's kind of like ness, but for verbs, like doingness, which we just don't have anything in English that, there's not some kind of bound morpheme that converts a verb into like a conceptual thing, other than like the gerund or infinitive, which are really more equivalent to an ordinary Coptic verb. So this is kind of a special thing. It makes like a conceptual idea. Yeah, and then a bunch of others. You can turn all these other words into prefixes, and really all that's happening is that they're losing their stress, so the vowel is changing, right? Like, I think in every single one of these cases, I don't see any exceptions. Yeah, so the vowel is changing, but what's actually happening in the prefix form is that the vowel isn't changing, right? Historically, this was the original vowel. But then when it's stressed in the word by itself, you have the vowel shifts. So the alpha changes to an omicron, etc. Right? And then this is like, generally speaking, the original vowel. Although you do get some shortening. Like this is clearly a shortening. Wait, right here. Nave to nev is a shortening because it's unstressed. But yeah, that's the idea. Wow, so many examples. Oh my gosh. Well, y'all just read these examples because it's a great way to remember these things. Oh my gosh, Participium conjunctivum. This is like my favorite. I don't know why I love this so much. It's one of my favorite things in Coptic. How to explain this? Like you take the verb and you turn it into like it's like a participle. So may to love becomes my. You see this? There's a word like minuti, which like pious, but it's really like God lover, loving of God. Oh, here it is. Perfect. What is this? Yeah. This is the on, that means about or around. Oh my gosh, there's so many examples in here. Does Lambda have this much stuff in this chapter? This is so much. Yeah. I think I'm probably going to drop it here.
I think
Law
that-
3.
I think he brings them from the end of chapter from the last chapter. Yeah, this is the last grammar that Lambden has, and that's it.
Yeah, let's look at this. Okay, so yeah, third future is kind of cool. I can't write, so I can't exactly show y'all how this works. But basically, you had in older Egyptian.
There's a whiteboard in Google. You can just like use it like as a whiteboard. There's a whiteboard in Google Meets. You did him, Mark. You did it yesterday. The other time with Randy, the whiteboard.
Yeah, but I think you have to open like another thing. I don't know how. I'm not sure if it's convenient now or not. It's up to whoever.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
And you.
But okay, yeah. So the third future comes from this this older construction where you have eu plus suffix pronoun plus r, the preposition that you know from like preposition oh, it disappears too. Oh, that's confusing. Like erof, right? Like to him, that's this here is the preposition You actually have the same eu that you have in the circumstantial, which just becomes in Coptic, plus suffix pronoun. These should all look pretty familiar. There's ek. Second person feminine is always a little strange, but it was like a T originally. F, S, N, ten, U, right? All the common pronoun forms that you've seen before. It's sandwiched between these two s. Eu, suffix pronoun, plus r. So, and then if you think about what that means, like ioi, sejem, I toward hearing, like I'm going to hear, makes a future type meaning in the same way that I'm going to in English makes a future type meaning. And what's really interesting about this is that Egyptian did that twice. It did the I'm going to thing twice. So it had a I am toward X, which is also in Middle Egyptian, you can say I am toward X in the sense of like I'm going to X. And you can have it as a verbal concept, like I'm going to do a certain thing. So Egyptian made a future that way. And then later on, it created this di na sodom, like I'm going, literally I'm going to here. And that's the first future. So basically the first, second, and third future all mean going to, but they're at various stages of history. And I don't know what's get the negative third future. It's like ben eoi. Yeah, it's basically the negated version of the affirmative. So I'm not going to. It's just prefixed by this double N. Something that's slightly interesting about the third future is that the nominal form of it doesn't exactly match. Like you don't say piromi which is what you would think just from the pattern. Starting in late Egyptian, all the parts that made the third future, so eu actually got squished together and turned into a prefix. It's kind of weird. But you see it even in like late Egyptian orthography. So you get this eta before the noun, and then that's how you make future. Yeah, kind of fun. I'm sorry I can't draw all these things. I think it helps to kind of see how they're composed, but it's not strictly necessary. Like you can just memorize the forms. They have you can easily recognize all of the pronouns that you know from, the possessive articles or other verb paradigms or whatever. Okay, so I think I'll stop there. You mentioned at the beginning that there were some other things that you wanted to talk about. I guess I'll just leave time for that now.
They're random questions. It depends on how much time you have. And David can go ahead and start.
Oh, I start? Okay.
If Christian, you have more time. This is more like we're done with the lesson. This is now just open mic.
Yeah. Let's take a few minutes and just talk about things. It's 10:15 my time, so I'm not going to stay for too long because I eventually have to go home and go to sleep. But yeah, I got some time. I'm not in a hurry at the moment.
You tell us. Okay, give me more question, or I think we're done here. You take care.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. What's more? In the Discord, I asked about this to you when I first joined in regards to the weak indefinite article. In terms of where precisely those came from, was it the pay determinative or pi? Was it pi p pe pe, or was it pi p and pe pe?
Yeah.
Or do we have any idea?
That's a good question. So the situation has never been totally clear to me. I know I've read some things where people try to break it down, and then I've tried to systematize it myself. So before I even try to systematize it, if I were like writing this somewhere, I would actually start by just kind of reminding everyone and myself that like language is not like Legos. Language is like Play-Doh, right? Like language is very, very flexible. There are plenty of examples in Coptic and in English and in every language where like a word can have more than one etymology, for example. Right? We often think of this thing as being sort of like a branching tree of words evolving over time, but in fact, it's much messier. There's lots of like the branches cross one another. And I think that's really the case with the Coptic articles. I think that these things are so similar in sound and meaning, and the distinction is so nuanced that you often have things sort of separating and merging. But if you look at all the different dialects and really separate them out, you clearly have like a pi and a pay and a p, and then a reduced form that's like pa. And in older stages of Egyptian, you have a different set, but those things all kind of seem to come from the same thing. They all seem to come from pi. That's how it looks like in the script, anyway. So it kind of looks like this one thing that basically meant this branched into this, that, and actually more forms than we have in English. So there's some kind of nuance. Like he with the Yoda seems to mean something like the aforementioned. Like it has a little bit of a stronger, this is a thing that we both know about, which also is what the means, though. Because if I say like the man, you can pretty much assume that we both know which man we're talking about. And I can illustrate that with this excellent meme I saw like a week ago, which was like, I'm not going to remember it word for word, but I'm just going to try to get as close as I can. It's like one of the funnest things to do in English is to swap the definite and indefinite article, especially in common phrases. And the example they used was, oh man, I'm sweating like the pig. It's always funny. It's something like it's something that non-native speakers do by accident quite a lot, because the presence of the definite article is sort of arbitrary in those kinds of phrases. But like, I'm sweating like a pig. It's a pig. It's some general, like, I don't care which one. It's just a way of exaggerating how sweaty I am.
Yeah. Kind of.
But if you say I'm sweating like the pig, it's like all of a sudden you're like, wait, is this like some pig that we both know about who sweats a lot? Like, it's just funny because it's jarring. So the definite article kind of always expresses this idea of the one that we both know about, but P seems to kind of have a little bit extra, like the one that we talked about before, but Coptic doesn't actually use it that way. It uses it just as like the one that we both know about.
I know, like, you can sometimes deduce certain things, like if you see phrases like in Saitic, like if you see like p something what, they usually means like the same something, and it's like
Yeah.
it's referring to an affirmation thing, like you said. So it's like, even if, like, I have no idea, obviously, if it's etymologically, like, if there's an actual correspond, like, if there's an actual, like, intentional, or like there's a correspondence or something, but it's like the fact that they use the one with the iota a lot for, like, to mean like the same, or the single one, or the same one, that gives me a little bit of an indication that, like, maybe there's something to that, but I can't like speculate anything outside of that.
Yeah. I totally agree with all of that. I think one of the things that I'll just add that sort of stands out to me is that Bohairic tends to use P, whereas Saitic and other dialects tend to not use it as often. Although they do have it. I'm pretty sure they all have it. So the fact that there's this trend in dialects to prefer one or the other, that suggests to me that they're very, very close in meaning. Where the nuance is, it's possible to simply lose the nuance entirely. I'm sure you could even try to brainstorm some examples between, like, American and British English, right? Where you say things slightly differently. And like, even as a native speaker of American English, I might accidentally say it the British way because I happen to have been speaking to someone who speaks that dialect, and that's the way I remember it most recently. So that's the way I say it without even noticing that I've used a slightly different dialectal form, because the difference between them is so minor that a native speaker can literally forget that there's a difference. I think that's probably true of these article distinctions.
Okay. And then one last thing, then I'll let some others ask a question. Is it fairly certain to say that, at least for the Bohairic, the iota ending sort of signifies that there was some sort of previous T ending in the earlier stages of the language? Just because something I've noticed with the what is orthographically shown in Demotic, you usually have that tall T. And I think, is it not true that Romi at one point in time was actually a feminine word?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't feminine. It was, well, no, I don't think so. It had it actually, Romi is a good example because it wasn't feminine. What it had was a different consonant. It wasn't a T. It was this, what we call second T, probably like a sort of palatalized T, like it's slightly different.
It was like Rumet, Rumi.
Yeah, and so
Romet.
that T changed into a regular T and then got interpreted as being like a feminine T. So then it became Romi. It got lost for the same phonetic reasons. But the word itself, I don't think was ever understood to be feminine.
It's kind of makes sense why, like, we say like set, like sets is like a word for female, like back in time. Like it was. Am I right or not?
You mean in Arabic?
No, because we still use it, like in the Egyptian Arabic. We say set, which mean a female.
Right.
Like, I hear that like set was like was back in time in the Egyptian language.
Like for like.
Oh yeah. That's an interesting case. So what actually happened there is, so you get, like, in late Egyptian, you get set hemet, right? Like, which is literally means a female woman. It sounds kind of absurd to say a female woman, but what happened is there's a word Z or C that means man, and the word set probably that meant woman, and then the final T was lost, and then those words became identical. Just by coincidence, there was no way to distinguish the word man from woman. So then they added the word female to it to say like a female person versus male person, which is exactly what happened with the word woman. Comes from with man, female man, quite literally. Yes, same thing happened in English. White, and it was the word white that was used adjectively to mean female. Super interesting. What else? Oh yeah, more. I think that's it. More questions.
I have a question. What do you recommend for us moving forward in two ways? One, let's say we all London expert in Bohairic. Two things. What would you recommend we do with the class? And also, what would you recommend that we personally do, let's say, aiming for fluency in, I don't know, speaking and writing? Let's say
Yeah.
speaking. I guess that's the hardest part.
I genuinely agree with speaking more, because like we have like sources for Bohairic, like how to speak in Bohairic, like speaking in general, as like a way to revive the language. There's like a book, it's called like Weiss Nauschund by
Yes.
Police.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like
The Police Institute. Yeah, my friend and with co-authors created that book. Halali Harel, she works here in Berlin too. She works at Halal. Yeah, that's a great place to go next. So there's a couple things I would suggest. I can't speak Coptic, honestly. I have no speaking practice at all. I can read it very easily, but speaking, I think I would be terrible at speaking Coptic. A conversational class would be super fun. I think that's a great idea. A sort of like Coptic revivalist conversation class where you speak Bohairic dialect and go through this Weiss Nauschont or whatever.
Do you know like Dr. Kamal Farid?
No. No.
Okay, so he's like a big like a guy in cryptology. He's still alive. Thank God. So, but he made like a book about like words that he can recreate, like combine some words together, so he can create like one word. Like let's say, hospital. And we're gonna be Bima on, like the place of life. You know, it's like this.
Yeah.
He did like
Was
this.
that
He's
Dr.
still
Ishak?
in the Bible.
Well, okay.
What are we gonna do, David?
So you're. Oh, sorry. Am I talking over someone? I didn't mean to.
No, I was wondering if I think I knew who you're talking about, Cross. I thought it was Dr. Ishak or Isak.
Isaac? No, it's Dr. Kamal Farid. I'm no one talking about. It's like
I meant more, just to clarify my question, I meant more, let's say, writing in the sense of like sentence construction. Like I can write an essay and then just reading it more often become conversational. But basically fluency in like reading and writing more comfortably. What would you recommend for both the class and like, you know, what would you study as like stages of learning a language in general? Not necessarily conversation like, hi, how are you? How's it going? Not necessarily that, but like I can translate a Bible chapter myself.
That just comes with lots of reading practice. I think that like for me, the thing I love the most about learning languages, probably the reason I study ancient languages, is I love learning to read languages. I find that just really really enjoyable. That's my favorite part of learning a language. Learning to comprehend, like listening is fun. Writing can be really fun. Speaking is probably my least favorite part of learning a language, honestly. But it's the most. It's one of the most important too. So reading, I would say a reading class is probably. Let me just start over. Okay, we've talked about a lot of things. What to do next? First thing I would say is reading class. Like just read something in Coptic. There's a reading course done by the Coptic Scriptorium. It's Lydia
Bremer.
Yes.
But the thing is that the Bohairic text in the Coptic scriptorium is very limited. It's like only the
that's true.
And
only Mark.
Mark and First Corinthians, if I remember correctly. It might not be like the maybe I don't know how fun of a choice it would be, but like the scriptorium for the limited Bohairic selection that's there now, like it can be used. Like if we're reading something else in Bohairic, we can at least use the scriptorium to like verify. You know, there's not going to be typos in the sentences, for example, like in the Matar book that we just used today. So like we can look up like, oh, what are the parts of speech that the words are in. So it's like it could be scriptorium could be a resource for Bohairic, but as far as actual reading practice, I've actually thought about like the idea of like whether it's me who leads it or someone else, like just like Christian said, like going into a text, whether it's the Bible or if it's like Lives of Monks or something, and just like read something, like just go through it, and like I'm comfortable enough in Bohairic where it's like I can, even if I don't immediately know what a word means. It's like I know how to like look things up on the fly, like in dictionaries and Chrome, and you know, like I know what the corresponding Saitic word would be, so that facilitates like me looking something up. And like as a class, we can look through like, okay, what's the sentence trying to say? What's it, you know, like what's the trying to like build the
analytic mode,
what?
like analytic mode or something like that.
You know, like an analytic sort of mode. Yeah, like so like when I'm reading, like whether I'm reading, like, because I try to look at the actual manuscripts whenever I can, whenever I can manage to find them online. It's a lot of fun. But even if I'm just reading like from Budge or just from like somebody who just like transcribed it, you know, it's like it could be a lot of fun to like start to read a story and you don't know what it's about going in, and then like as you're reading the sentences, you're trying to paint the picture in your head, like what's going on. Like even like with something like in Zadic, like the Legend of Hilaria, like I didn't know what the story was about beforehand, but like you're reading it and like there's a part where like she's disguised as a monk and like she's talking to Apapambo, who only knows Coptic, and she's from Constantinople, so she only knows Greek. And there's like a few sentences where it's saying like, oh yeah, she's speaking to Apapambo, but then like another monk had to translate between them from Coptic to Greek. And then it was saying like basically like, oh yeah, so because of that, she decided for herself to teach herself Coptic. And like, so you sort of figure out stuff based on like, you're actually figuring out stuff about like the narrative. It's not just like you're figuring out grammar. You're actually figuring out the narrative. You're figuring out what the scenery looks like. You're figuring out what's going on. If you're confused about something, you can figure out like, oh, it probably is trying to say this because these previous sentences are saying this. So it can be like an interesting experience to like use all these things to help facilitate the learning process.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so to kind of recap, I would say reading. I would probably do a reading course next. That's pretty straightforward. I would conversational Coptic is a great idea. I don't know exactly how that would work, but I would be interested to see how that would work. I think it would be really cool.
There is sources for this speaking in Bohairic, thank God. But like in Saitic, I think is like very limited.
Yeah, I would definitely do Bohairic for a conversational class for sure. Yeah, those are my recommendations.
Awesome, thank you. So reading is next.
Okay, and also Christian, nice chicken behind you. That's a nice chicken.
No, thank you. It's one of our. You can evaluate the quality of my drawing. I think I did a pretty good job, actually.
Yeah,
like quite accurate. Yeah, it's one of our unofficial mascots of the Zodiac Project. The chicken. I don't even remember where it comes from at this point. It's kind of just like a weird little inside joke. So there's chickens everywhere. Yeah. Any other? I'm probably gonna go soon. I'm getting sleepy. I normally go to bed at like 10 because I'm a grandpa. I wake up super early. But yeah, any other questions?
Okay, no one is responding. I'll ask. Jenkins. Actually, sorry. Let's forget about this one now. Pronunciations. What are your thoughts on pronunciations? Giving not the modern reconstructed Bohairic, and then I have my personal issues with old Bohairic, and then I kind of like the academic pronunciation. What are your professional thoughts on pronunciations?
I tend to think that that Coptic is pronounced a lot like it looks, which is kind of the boring answer. Oh, I just lost my headphones. But,
We can hear you just fine.
okay, yeah, I just had to turn my speakers on. I keep them muted most of the time. It's a really big topic. I don't think I can recap it all here, but the simplest thing I would say is that I think the pronunciation of Coptic is a lot like what it looks like. Like Janja sounds like Ja, Chima sounds like Cha, Eta sounds like E, Omega sounds like O. I really think everything I've looked at. This is a question I've been interested in for a really long time. I've worked on it. I've written about it a little bit. It seems there in the analysis of Coptic phonology, there's a a strong tendency to want things to be more interesting, especially among Egyptologists. You know, Egyptologists are drawn toward this ancient language. Most Egyptologists are from Europe or the United States. Egypt is really far away in time. Egyptologists tend to be drawn towards the distant and the exotic and the foreign in the language. That's what is part of what's attractive about it, and rightfully so. It's part of what makes it such a cool language. It's pretty far away from anything that I experienced as a kid in Texas, you know? So I get it, but in terms of scholarship, there's way too strong a bias towards the interesting and not enough of the, hey, this was a language people spoke every day for thousands of years. It probably has the most common phonemes that are in most languages. It, you know, the values of these letters are probably quite similar to what we would reconstruct for Greek, because they borrowed them from Greek and they probably used them mostly as they were used in Greek. I think the thing that still eludes us most in Coptic pronunciation, which is why I really like Kiros's pronunciation, is it's not the actual phonology, because like I could write the IPA for a Coptic word and that would be pretty accurate. I think what's missing is what I would call like the accent. Like when I pronounce Coptic, I inevitably pronounce it with an American accent. A native speaker of German pronounces it with a German accent. I know, because I've gone to German Coptic classes and they pronounce it with a very obvious German accent. The accent is the thing that I will probably never get right. But the actual phonetic realization of these letters, I think we know that. I think it is what we think it is.
It is based on what we call the academic pronunciation. So like, what would you do with the beta and the theta? What would be the non-accent, just phonology for it?
Beta was very clearly a VW type of thing. I would compare it to like the sound in Turkish that's realized as a V or a W in different contexts. It's a V or a W type sound. Theta was almost certainly an aspirated T type sound. There have been arguments for an emphatic.
I mean, that's Semitic. That's Semitic because like it's like it kind of makes sense because like they do like tehlal, like tehlal, temhal, like this. But like in Bohairic, it doesn't like kind of fit this because we have like you know, the like the example that we saw like at, it always like show like a theta as like a T or like without aspiration or anything of this. So yeah, it's only in Saharic. It's like limited to some dialects in Coptic, not always all of them.
It could be. I don't actually know this. I don't know. This is a good time to say I don't know, because I don't claim to know. But I think the sort of Occam's razor argument for the realization of theta is if it's an aspirated T in Saitic, it should probably be an aspirated T in Bohairic, unless we have very good evidence against that. And I don't know of any really strong evidence against it. We do see this, like the Blemnar consonants, where you get like the.
Just like compare like for example, I, me, you, like in both dialects, you would see that Bohairic would use theta a lot. Saharic would just use a daw a lot. That's it. And you can see, oh, sounds similar. So yeah, maybe like I just like use like a comparison between like dialects to get the sound, like, you know.
Yeah, and it's really not clear to us what the differences between the dialects are either. These could be, there's multiple layers of possible variation. It could be differences in pronunciation or differences in orthographic system, and we're not really sure. There's no way to know.
Differences in stress as well, because like for Bohairic, like you have pi, tai, nai, you know, the pi and the tai are spelled with a phi and a theta respectively in their independent forms. But then when you have them as you know, like if you want to say like this man, you would, you know, pi romi, that's pi, you know, just with the regular p, not with the phi. So it's like and the implication, at least to me, it seems that like, oh, pi is like more unstressed than the Romy part, so maybe the aspiration has to do with stress as well. But again, that's just speculative.
Which, but then you get analogy with lots of other languages where aspiration appears before stressed vowels. This is true in English, but it's true in a number of other languages. Yeah, cross-linguistically, that's a very strong argument for just an aspirated consonant. Yeah, the argument for an emphatic consonant is a German woozle. Germans love emphatic consonants for some reason, and they argue for them all the time, but the evidence has never been good. They just kind of, Germans also like to talk themselves into ideas. It's just how they do scholarship. They start something and then they talk about it enough until they believe it. But the evidence for that is practically non-existent. It's just something they made up. Yeah, I don't know. I think Coptic phonology, it's maybe my favorite academic subject ever. So don't take this the wrong way. But I think Coptic phonology is, for lack of a better word, kind of boring. I think it just is what we think it probably is.
So the T is a T.
A T is a T. A P is a P. It's just
okay.
It just is what it is. I think it just is what it is. Yeah, and I think so.
I want to make it also like the ecclesiastical pronunciation, because like I hate the ecclesiastical pronunciation.
Oh, yeah, that's awful.
It sounds like it sounds like this. Like this. Like they would just put like A's into nowhere. Like
like a lot of
Nifawi heavens. Like the word for Nifawi heavens, it was gonna be Nifiowi. How is this possible?
That was actually the word when I was self-teaching myself when I first started Coptic. That was the word, and I think the word for Paul was thank God the Archimandrite Society put the alternative, quote unquote alternative pronunciation for letters. That was like the first word. Is like, okay, there's something wrong here. This doesn't make sense. Fi-u-i-i was far too hard to easily pronounce, and I kept thinking a what instead of true u, as it's sort of understood.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
ecclesiastical pronunciation is not. It has no historical basis.
Yeah, it's literally made up by what do you call? I forgot his name. Gerge can. Arian Gerges Effendi.
Yeah. Okay. What else could I say about Coptic phonology?
About phonology, in Bohairic, in modern text, there's too much jinkims everywhere, and in what I came up with, like my own rule of thumb is like, if it's not on an M or an M, it's probably should not exist in Bohairic, not in the Sadic, like you have in Sotim. But I wasn't too sure what to make of it. Like, would you say entok or ntok when possible? Like in the M and the M of the genitive, that makes sense. But but I'm not sure what to do with it otherwise. Just because it's just everywhere that it kind of lost its meaning at this point. Where is the right place to put a jinkim, and where is the right place to say it doesn't exist here? And did Copts, do we know that Copts had struggles saying a word like sarix and saying sarex, which is why they had to include a jinkim, or beginning of
that we do. And you know how we know?
How do we know?
How do you say this word?
I say sarix. I mean, modern Egyptians. I was talking like native Copts.
Yeah.
Native Coptic speakers. Especially any words, any Greek words that would start with two consonants like thronos. You would have to hear pek ethronos or etronos. But I would think it's like, you make it work, pektronos. But I wasn't sure what native speakers, was that a struggle that they had to do a jinkim, or it's a modern struggle that they had to add a jinkim?
What's your first language, Mark?
Egyptian Arabic.
Okay. What like Cairene dialect?
Yeah.
Kiros, is that your first language as well?
Nah, my first language is Arabic Egyptian Sahelic, like Upper Egyptian.
Upper Egyptian. Okay. Well, in that case, Mark, you are a native Coptic speaker because Cairene Arabic is Arabic with a Coptic Coptic accent. It's Arabic
Yeah,
with a Coptic.
same thing. Sometimes with the Saharic dialect, because the Saharic Arabic Egyptian dialect, because like
Yeah.
you know, like sometimes even in Saharic, like Saharic, how they speak, you know. For example, there is no like jim muta'attisha in Arabic, but in Persian it does. While in Arabic
Mm.
Egyptian, there is a sound of like a jim muta'attisha. Okay, this is because of like Coptic influence on this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say here. Like, you're actually native Coptic speakers who learned Arabic from your parents, but it's
Yeah. Actually,
the phonology
yeah.
of Cairene Arabic is Coptic.
Remember the manuscript that I mentioned, which is Sammy Chris's manuscript.
Yeah.
It literally records what we have like right now. We speak today, like tegdib and tabtegdib, not tegdib. We don't like pronounce the dal or like
Mm.
anything of that. You say tegdib, tegzib. Or sometimes we make the delta as like a da zin like a zeta,
Yeah.
which is still modern today.
Yeah. Especially like Arabic words that have fricatives in them, they tend to turn into stops. That's a big topic. It's a much bigger topic than I have time for tonight. But yeah. It's Coptic phonology sounded more or less like Cairene Arabic phonology. That's where Cairene Arabic comes from. It's just Coptic speakers trying to speak in Arabic. That's it.
I'm may kind of disagree with it because like Cairo was like a place of it was like New York back in time.
Mm.
Right? It's like there's a lot of people with different immigrant different like people from Shem and like different kinds of different people from the Middle East. So
Sure.
they would like kind of mix up.
It's not perfect. It's mixed with other things for sure, but mainly that's
Like that's what like I go with the Saharic Arabic Egyptian ones because like why you like because like Middle Easterns mostly like from deserts, they won't go to like farmlands in the Upper Egypt, you know. Kind of makes sense.
okay. Yeah, I'll buy that. In any case, yeah. I think Coptic phonology is a lot easier than Egyptologists want it to be. I mean, also academics have to add lines to their CV all the time. You know, people need something to write a paper about. Sometimes academics pretend that something is more complicated than it is so that they can write a paper about it. Yeah, Coptic phonology is, in my opinion, easy. It's what it is.
I would say probably the more interesting challenge is like with regards to reading text, not the phonology, like the strict pronunciation of the phonemes, but like trying to read while you're reading a text, like trying to read in your head what the intonation of a sentence would be. Like not just if it's a question or if it's a statement, but like how are the speakers who, you know, whatever characters are in the story, pieces of dialogue, like how would you say it in your, you know, whatever your native language is, like, oh, how would I say it in my language? How would they, what part of the sentence would they put emphasis on? What would they stress? And not on the word level, but like on the sentence level. Like, I think that stuff is a lot more, there's a lot more like stuff that can be learned from that research. It's probably already ongoing, but like that's a lot of what my goal is with reading, is like trying to figure out like how people were speaking when they actually spoke like everyday sentences. Especially since there's not a lot of punctuation in Coptic text. Like you have the post you have like the de and gar and stuff like that. So like you could see like where one clause ends and the next begins a lot of the time, but a lot of the time it's hard to know exactly where a sentence ends and where it starts, like from an English perspective. So I think like insight could be gained from like trying to glean like this sort of like sentence level stuff, like how a sentence sounded, you know, like when a speaker was pronouncing it, stuff that's like, you know, lost to us today, but like that we could potentially recover from just doing a lot of reading.
Yeah. I mean, that does work. Like reading a lot, reading aloud. I think if you created a sort of conversation practice course, I think it's quite likely that you would end up getting closer to an actual spoken Coptic, I think you'd be surprised how well that would work. Also, just because there are a lot of there are sort of grooves in the way the human speech organs work. We tend to fall into grooves of making things easier to say. So just by speaking a lot, you actually tend to create something more like a real spoken language, even if you've never actually heard someone speak that language. Yeah. So try speaking. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go home. It's really late. I'm sorry. Can we have one last question?
It would probably be maybe potentially lengthy. I was just gonna ask, because we're going through a Demotic course, and I'm trying my best to translate into Coptic as best as I can.
Yeah.
Do you think doing some pre-Coptic texts, translating that into Coptic and using those, do you think those might potentially be helpful, or at least
That's
as
an
best as
awesome
we can?
idea. Absolutely. Please do that. And please send them to me when you do. I would love to read them.
And also, do we prepare for is it probably fair to say, at least in Bohairic, it could be reconstructed as like pur or por?
Puro.
The word house, you mean?
Yeah, the word for house.
Oh,
Yeah.
bay. It's bay in the Bohairic Coptic, but it sometimes can be pur, like berai, like this.
I think it probably had an A in it.
A?
Yeah. Like par. I think that's probably it.
Bay.
Because then when it's unstressed, you end up with epsilon, and then in cases where it's stressed, you end up with, at least in the word genipor, that I think is in Saitic, you end up with omega, which suggests that it was pa plus r plus some short vowel. Para.
Makes sense, because I think that's essentially how we get the word for pharaoh, from the old Greek.
Yeah.
Just because I was thinking about how for like the Bohairic word for Cain, ulero, where the ur comes from after the p of the per,
Yeah.
and then the o just comes from o.
Yeah, and it was probably O, and then how you get oo. That's not a common thing in the evolution of Egyptian phonetics, but I would guess a lot of words begin with oo, especially words where the oo isn't stressed. That happens a lot, where you have a short oo type vowel at the beginning of a word. So maybe it's something like poro or something, and then because this is a this is Afro-Asiatic language, you have vowel paradigms. Words tend to borrow like set sequences of vowels from other words and end up sounding alike, even when they started sounding different. They started out sounding different, they end up sounding more alike. That's my guess what happened there, but I don't know for sure. Anyway.
Right.
All right, guys. It was great. Mark, thank you so much for inviting me. This has been really fun. I hope you all had fun.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, it was great. And I look forward to seeing what you guys end up doing next.
Yeah, well, we do, us too. Anon hon. Anon too.
Anon hon. All right. Good night, guys.
Good night.
All right.
Hey. Mark, looks like you want to go sleep so badly.
Well, it is 11:52 over there. Actually, 10:52. Sorry, never mind.
He's in Canada. I'm saying Mark, no, Christian.
Mark? 4:52. Anyways, I have to go as well.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.